I remember the night it all came crashing down. My grandfather held me by the wrist so tight I thought my bones would snap. His eyes were wide, like he was staring at someone else, someone only he could see. And then, with a shaky voice, he whispered words that froze my heart. "You are my wife, my Emily. You came back to me." I was just a child, trembling in his grip, but in his twisted mind, I wasn't me anymore. I was his dead wife. And what he did after that scarred me for life. That was the night my childhood ended. And the most painful part? My family saw the signs. They knew something was wrong, but they let it happen. My name is Sarah. I am speaking from the heart of Georgia, USA, and I am 68 years old. Before I begin this story, I want to welcome you. Please, if you are listening to me right now, do me a favor. Subscribe, like this story, and click on the notification button so you won't miss the next chapters of my life. And I want to know, where are you watching this from? Tell me in the comments because it makes me happy to know who is out there listening. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Before the night my grandfather lost his mind and saw me as his dead wife. Growing up, our house always smelled of pine wood and old tobacco. We lived in a small town in Georgia where everybody knew each other's business. My grandfather, Richard, was a man everyone respected. He was tall, stern, and always wore a pressed shirt. Even when working in the garden, people looked at him and saw a proud war veteran, a man of honor. But behind closed doors, he was a storm waiting to break. My grandmother, Emily, the real Emily, died long before I was born. The family said she was kind, with soft eyes and a gentle voice. They said my grandfather never recovered after losing her. He kept her picture on the mantel, staring at it for hours as if he could call her back. And sometimes, when I walked past him, he would look at me strangely, like he was searching for her face in mine. At first, I thought it was love. I thought he just missed her and saw a bit of her in me. But I was wrong. As a little girl, I spent a lot of time at his house because my parents worked late. He would make me sit beside him while he smoked his pipe, telling me stories about the war and about my grandmother. "She wore her hair just like yours," he'd say. "And she used to smile the same way." I didn't know it then, but he was building a picture in his mind. A picture where I wasn't his granddaughter anymore, I was her. The nights were the worst. The old house creaked with every gust of wind, and shadows stretched long across the walls. Sometimes I'd wake up to the sound of his footsteps outside my door. I'd squeeze my eyes shut, praying he would keep walking. But some nights he didn't. One night, when I was about 12, I felt his hand on my shoulder. His voice was low and shaky when he whispered, "Emily, you're back. You came back to me." My heart raced. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. I stayed frozen, my little body shaking under the blanket. From that night on, nothing was ever the same. During the day, he treated me like a granddaughter, taking me to church, buying me candy from the store. But at night, his eyes changed. His grip tightened, and his words grew darker. He didn't call me Sarah anymore. I was Emily to him, his dead wife. The scariest part? My family noticed. My mother once asked me, "Why does Grandpa hold your hand so long? Why does he look at you like that?" I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to scream. Because he thinks I'm his wife. But every time I tried, the words stuck in my throat. My mother would shake her head and say, "He's just lonely, honey. He misses her." They all told themselves the same lie. That he was harmless. That his grief made him act strange. And so they looked away. But I couldn't look away. I was living in the nightmare they refused to see. One evening, the house was quiet. My parents had left me there again, and my grandfather asked me to sit with him in the living room. His pipe smoke filled the air as he stared at me. I tried to avoid his eyes, but he reached out and touched my cheek. "Emily," he whispered, his fingers trembling. "Don't ever leave me again." That was the moment I knew I wasn't safe anymore. And what happened next, it still haunts me. His hand lingered on my cheek, rough and shaking. My body stiffened, and my chest rose and fell like a trapped bird gasping for air. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs felt nailed to the chair. My grandfather's eyes were wet, lost, and yet burning with a hunger I couldn't understand then. "You came back to me, Emily," he whispered again, his voice breaking. "I prayed for this day. I swallowed hard. I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah, your granddaughter. My voice was small, trembling like a candle's flame in the wind. But he shook his head violently. No. Don't lie to me. You can't fool me. I know those eyes. I know that smile. You are her. You belong to me. My heart thundered so loud I thought the walls would hear it. I yanked my hand away and stood up quickly, backing toward the hallway. I need to use the bathroom, I said, trying to sound calm like I wasn't suffocating in fear. He smiled. That smile chilled me more than his words. Hurry back, Emily. Don't keep me waiting. I ran to the bathroom, locked the door, and pressed my ear against the wood. His footsteps moved slowly back to his chair. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. Only silence. My small reflection in the mirror looked back at me, wide-eyed, terrified. I whispered to myself, "You're Sarah. You're Sarah. You're Sarah." I had to remind myself who I really was because he was trying to take that away. When I finally came out, I avoided his eyes. I told him I was tired and wanted to sleep. He nodded, but before I could leave, he caught my arm again. His grip was firm, desperate. "Emily, don't lock your door tonight. I need you close." The air in my lungs vanished. I nodded weakly, but in my heart I screamed. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of my bedroom door. My hand shook as I moved the heavy wood across the floor, but it was the only barrier I had. I curled up under the blanket, praying he wouldn't try to get in. The hours dragged. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Every gust of wind against the window made me shiver. And then, I heard it. Slow, dragging footsteps outside my door. My breath caught. The knob turned. The dresser rattled. "Emily," he called softly. "It's me. Open up, darling. Don't keep me out." I buried my face in the pillow to muffle my sobs. The dresser shook again, harder this time. My heart pounded so fast it hurt. For a moment I thought he would break in. Then silence. His footsteps retreated down the hallway. I didn't sleep a second that night. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the room, but it didn't wash away the shadows inside me. I went downstairs, hoping maybe it had all been a dream. But there he was, sitting at the table, sipping coffee, reading the newspaper. "Good morning, Emily," he said cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. I froze. My name wasn't Sarah anymore. Not to him. I wanted to run to my mother, to tell her everything. But when I tried, she brushed me off. "Honey, Grandpa's old. He says strange things sometimes. Don't take it too seriously." Not too seriously? He thought I was his wife. He tried to get into my room. How could that not be serious? But they didn't listen. No one listened. The days blurred into weeks. Each visit to Grandpa's house became a battlefield where I fought to protect myself with silence and locked doors. But no matter how hard I tried, his obsession grew. One Sunday afternoon after church, he asked me to sit on his lap in front of everyone. My cousins laughed. My uncles teased. My mother even smiled. But as I sat down, his arms wrapped tightly around me, too tightly. His lips brushed my hair, and he whispered so no one else could hear. "I missed you, Emily. Tonight you'll stay with me. I won't let you go." My blood turned cold. I pulled away quickly, forcing a laugh, pretending I needed to use the bathroom. But inside I was screaming. I knew then he wasn't just confused. He wasn't just grieving. He was dangerous. And that night he proved it. I had barely pushed the dresser in front of my door when I heard him again. His voice was deeper, rougher. Not a whisper this time, but a command. "Emily, open this door. You belong to me. Don't fight me." The dresser shook violently as he rammed against it. My body trembled. My knees gave way, and I slid to the floor, pressing my back against the dresser with all the strength my small body had. "Please, God," I prayed under my breath. "Please don't let him in." He pounded once, twice, then silence. I thought he had left, but then I heard the soft click of a key sliding into the lock. My scream tore through the night as the door slowly began to open. The sound of the key sliding into the lock made my blood run cold. My dresser rattled as the door inched open, the pressure from his hand and the weight of the wood pushing against each other. I pressed my back harder against it, my small arms trembling as I tried to keep him out. "Emily." His voice was low, broken, but filled with something dark. Why do you fight me? You're mine. You've always been mine. No. I screamed, my voice cracking. I'm Sarah. I'm not Emily. But he didn't stop. He pushed again, harder this time. The dresser slid an inch across the floor, scraping the wood. My heart hammered so loud I thought it would burst. I tried to dig my heels into the floor, but I was just a child. He was stronger. Don't make me angry, Emily, he growled. You don't want me angry. Tears blurred my eyes. My whole body shook. I thought this was the end. I thought I would break. And then footsteps. Quick, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. My aunt's voice cut through the air like a blade. Daddy, what are you doing? The pressure stopped. The key slipped from the lock. My grandfather froze. For a moment silence filled the hallway, thick and heavy. Then his voice, calm but trembling. She came back to me, Anna. Don't you see? Emily came back. She's here. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to keep my sobs quiet. My aunt didn't answer at first. I heard her step closer. Then in a shaking whisper she said, Daddy, that's not Emily. That's Sarah. You're scaring her. A deep sigh came from him. No. You don't understand. You never loved the way I loved her. Look at her. Look at her eyes. How can you deny it? I sat frozen against the door, praying my aunt would stop him, praying she would make him leave. Finally she said, Daddy, please. Go to your room. I'll talk to her in the morning. There was a long silence. My grandfather muttered something I couldn't hear. Then his footsteps retreated down the hall. A door slammed shut. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was stiff with fear, my chest tight. Then a soft knock came. Sarah? Sweetheart, it's me. Open the door. I shoved the dresser aside with shaking arms and cracked the door open. My aunt's face appeared, pale and worried. Her eyes widened when she saw me. My hair a mess, my cheeks wet with tears, my tiny hands trembling. Oh, baby, she whispered, pulling me into her arms. I clung to her like a drowning child grabbing a rope. She stroked my hair. I'll talk to your mother. I promise. You won't be left here alone again. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Someone had seen. Someone had heard. But that hope didn't last long. The next morning, I woke up to my mother sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee with my aunt. Their voices were low, but I heard enough. She's exaggerating, my mother said. Daddy's old. He gets confused. Sarah just misunderstood. She didn't misunderstand, my aunt snapped. I saw him trying to get into her room. He called her Emily. This isn't normal. It isn't safe. My mother's voice hardened. Don't start. You know how much he loved Emily. Grief does strange things. He'd never hurt Sarah. You're making it bigger than it is. I stood in the doorway, my stomach twisting. My aunt saw me, her eyes softening. Sarah, go upstairs, honey. We're just talking. But I knew the truth. My mother wasn't going to protect me. From that day on, I lived in constant fear. My aunt tried to watch over me when she could, but she didn't live in the house. And my parents? They still dropped me off at Grandpa's whenever they needed a babysitter. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. One evening, about a week later, I sat at the dinner table with Grandpa. He watched me eat, his eyes never leaving my face. Every bite I took felt heavy, like I was swallowing stones. You used to love my cooking, he said softly. Remember, Emily? You always said my stew was the best. I lowered my spoon. Grandpa, I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah. His jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Then he slammed his hand against the table, making me jump. Stop saying that. Don't lie to me. The bowl rattled and stew spilled across the table. My heart leapt into my throat. I pushed back my chair, ready to run, but his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. You belong to me, Emily, he hissed, his grip crushing my skin. And if I can't have you, no one will. That was the night I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just lost in grief. He wasn't just confused. He was dangerous. Deadly dangerous. And I was trapped. Chapter 4. His grip on my wrist tightened until I thought the bones would snap. I gasped and tried to pull away, but his fingers were like iron. His eyes, wild, desperate, and almost glowing in the dim light of the dining room, burned into mine. "You won't leave me again, Emily," he whispered. "I buried you once. I won't do it twice." My spoon clattered to the floor. My chair tipped back as I struggled, and for a split second, I thought he might drag me across the table. Panic surged through me like fire. "Grandpa, please," I cried. "I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah." But he didn't hear me, or maybe he refused to. Just then, the front door creaked open. My mother's voice floated in, cheerful and unaware. "Dad, we're here." The grip loosened. My grandfather blinked, as if waking from a trance. He let go of my wrist, and I stumbled back, clutching the throbbing red marks on my skin. He looked down at his hand, then back at me, his expression twisting into something between shame and rage. "Go wash up, Emily," he muttered before standing and walking into the living room. I ran upstairs, my heart racing. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the cold tile floor, rocking back and forth. The marks on my wrist pulsed, a painful reminder that he could hurt me if he wanted to. And nobody would believe me. At dinner that night, my parents laughed and chatted with him as if nothing had happened. I sat silent, pushing food around my plate. Every time I looked at him, I saw that flash in his eyes, that obsession, that danger. He avoided my gaze, but I knew it wasn't over. After everyone left, I begged my mother in whispers while she tucked me into bed at home. "Please don't make me stay at Grandpa's anymore. Please, Mom. He scares me." She sighed, brushing hair from my face. "Sweetheart, Grandpa loves you. He's just lonely. Don't say things like that. You'll hurt his feelings." My chest ached with frustration. I wanted to scream the truth, that he didn't see me as his granddaughter anymore, that he wanted me to be his wife, that he said I belonged to him. But the words tangled in my throat. If she didn't believe me now, would she ever? The days that followed were quiet, but the silence was heavy. My grandfather didn't try to force his way into my room, not right away. Instead, he began leaving me little gifts. A ribbon, a hairbrush, a gold locket with a faded picture of Emily inside. "These were yours," he said one evening, pressing the locket into my palm. His voice trembled. "I kept them all these years for when you came back." I wanted to throw it away, to scream at him to stop, but I didn't. Fear made me nod and whisper, "Thank you." He smiled, satisfied. But every gift was a chain. Every whisper of Emily was a lock around my identity. Piece by piece, he was taking Sarah away from me. Then came the night that shattered me. I was lying in bed at his house again, because my parents left me there despite my pleas. When I woke to the sound of the floorboards creaking, my heart seized. The doorknob rattled. And then with slow determination the door opened. I had forgotten to push the dresser against it that night. The moonlight spilled across the room, outlining his tall figure. He stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. His breathing was heavy, his footsteps slow, deliberate. "Emily," his voice was hoarse. "Don't run from me. Don't hide." I scrambled back on the bed until my back hit the wall. "Please, Grandpa, stop. I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah." But he kept coming. His shadow fell across me, long and monstrous. He knelt by the bed, his hand reaching for mine. "You're mine," he whispered. "You've always been mine." My scream ripped through the night, louder than I thought possible. I screamed and screamed, praying someone would hear me, and someone did. The door burst open and my aunt stood there, her face pale with shock. "Daddy, what are you doing?" My grandfather froze, his hand inches from mine. His expression twisted, anger, grief, shame all crashing together. For a long second nobody moved. Then he turned on my aunt, his voice booming. "Get out. You don't understand. She's my wife." My aunt grabbed my arm and yanked me off the bed, pulling me behind her. "She's your granddaughter. Wake up, Daddy. This is wrong." His face darkened. His chest heaved. And then, in a voice that made the hair on my neck stand up, he said, "If you take her away from me again, I swear, you'll regret it." I clung to my aunt's arm, my nails digging into her skin, but she didn't flinch. Her body stood firm between me and my grandfather, like a shield I had prayed for but never thought would come. "Daddy, listen to yourself," she said, her voice trembling but strong. That's not Emily. That's Sarah. Your granddaughter. His chest rose and fell in heavy bursts, his eyes glinting with something wild, something not of this world. No, he hissed, pointing a shaking finger at me. That's Emily. You can't lie to me. I buried her with my own hands, and now God has returned her. She belongs to me, Anna. She belongs to me. I whimpered and buried my face into my aunt's side. Every word he spoke felt like a knife cutting me away from who I really was. Daddy, stop this madness, my aunt snapped. If you don't, I'll tell everyone. I'll tell Mom, I'll tell the pastor. I'll tell the whole town what you're doing. His face twisted in rage. His fist slammed against the wall so hard the picture frame rattled and fell to the floor, glass shattering at our feet. I jumped, a scream tearing from my throat. You wouldn't dare, he growled, stepping forward. My aunt didn't move. She gripped my hand tighter. Try me. Touch her again and I swear, I'll make sure you're never alone with her. For a moment I thought he would strike her. His hand lifted, trembling, his eyes blazing. But then something in him broke. His arm fell limp at his side. His chest heaved, and suddenly he looked old again, old and broken like a man drowning in grief. He turned away, muttering to himself, she's mine, before storming out of the room. The silence that followed was deafening. My aunt dropped to her knees and cupped my face in her hands. Her eyes glistened. Sarah, baby, I'm so sorry. I won't let this happen again. I promise. But promises are fragile things. The next morning, she argued with my mother. The whole house shook with their voices. Don't you see what's happening? My aunt yelled. He's lost his mind. He thinks Sarah is Emily. He tried to get into her room again last night. My mother's reply was sharp, cold. Stop exaggerating, Anna. Daddy is grieving. He's not dangerous. You're filling Sarah's head with fear. I stood in the hallway, trembling, my stomach twisting as I listened. You didn't see the way he looked at her, my aunt shot back. It wasn't grief, it was obsession. He's confusing her with his wife. It's sick and it's wrong. Enough, my mother shouted. He raised us, Anna. He fought for this country, provided for us. I will not throw him away because you're spinning stories. He loves Sarah. That's all. I wanted to run into the room and scream the truth. But I didn't. I was too scared, too tired of not being believed. The fight ended with my mother slamming the door in my aunt's face. My aunt stormed out of the house. But before she left, she caught my eye. She mouthed, I'll come back for you. Those words stayed with me. They were the only light in my darkness. But until she returned, I was still trapped with him. And my grandfather grew bolder. The next time I stayed at his house, he didn't wait for the night. In broad daylight, while the sun streamed through the curtains, he cornered me in the living room. You shouldn't fight me, Emily, he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered too long, too heavy. We were meant to be together. Don't you feel it? I froze, every muscle stiff, every breath shallow. I whispered, barely audible. I'm not Emily. His hand tightened on my chin, forcing me to look into his eyes. Say it, he demanded. Say you're Emily. Tears welled up in my eyes. My voice cracked. I'm Sarah. His expression twisted. Fury exploded across his face. He shoved me back against the couch so hard I gasped. His body loomed over me, his shadow swallowing me whole. If you won't admit who you are, he hissed, then I'll make you remember. I thought I was going to die right there. And that was the exact moment the front door opened. My father's voice called out cheerfully, Dad, you home? The pressure lifted. My grandfather straightened, smoothing his shirt like nothing had happened. His face turned calm, almost pleasant as he called back, In here, son. I sat frozen, tears streaming down my cheeks, my hands trembling in my lap. My father walked in, smiling, completely blind to the monster standing in front of him. That day I learned the most painful truth of all. The people you trust most can choose to look away. I sat there, frozen on the couch, my breath shallow and shaky, while my grandfather greeted my father like nothing had happened. There you are, son, Grandpa said with a smile that made my skin crawl. Sarah and I were just talking. I wanted to scream, no, we weren't. He was hurting me, but the words stuck in my throat like stones. My father walked into the room, whistling softly as he placed his keys on the table. He didn't see the fear in my eyes, or maybe he didn't want to. "Glad she's keeping you company, Dad," my father said warmly. "She looks just like Mom, doesn't she? I swear, every day she reminds me more and more of her." My chest tightened. There it was, the excuse. The perfect reason for my grandfather to claim me as Emily. And my father had handed it to him like a gift. Grandpa's eyes flickered to mine, dark and knowing. "Yes," he said slowly, his voice thick. "She is Emily. Through and through." My stomach churned. I bit my lip hard to keep from crying. My father chuckled, clueless. "Well, take care of her. I need to run some errands. I'll be back in a couple of hours." And just like that, he was gone. The door shut. The car engine rumbled outside, then faded into the distance. The moment it did, my grandfather turned back to me. The smile vanished. His eyes sharpened, cold and dangerous. "You heard him," he said softly, stepping closer. "Even your father sees it. You are Emily." I shook my head violently. "No, I'm not. I'm Sarah. I'm Sarah." He crouched in front of me, his face inches from mine. His hand gripped my knee, firm and unyielding. "Don't fight it, my love. Don't deny me again." Panic surged through me. My throat burned as I whispered, "Please stop." But he didn't stop. His hand slid up my arm. His eyes locked on mine. My heart hammered so loud it drowned out everything else. I thought I would faint. And then bang. The front door burst open again. My aunt stormed in, her face red with fury. "Daddy, what are you doing?" Grandpa jolted back, startled. His eyes narrowed, anger flashing across his face. "You again," he growled. She marched straight over, pulling me up from the couch and wrapping her arm around me protectively. "Enough is enough. I'm taking her home." His voice thundered through the house. "You will not take her from me. She is my wife. She belongs here with me. She's your granddaughter." My aunt shouted back, her voice cracking. "Look at her. She's terrified." I clung to her, my nails digging into her arm, sobbing silently. But Grandpa's face darkened, his whole body trembling with rage. His fists clenched at his sides, his voice a low, terrifying growl. "If you walk out that door with her, Anna, I swear on Emily's grave, I'll make you regret it." My aunt didn't flinch. She gripped me. My aunt's shoulder jerked violently as my grandfather's hand clamped down, his knuckles white with rage. I screamed so loud it tore at my throat, but he didn't let go. His eyes burned with madness, the kind that no amount of love or logic could calm. "You can't take her, Anna," he roared. "She is my Emily. She's mine, and I'll die before I let you steal her from me again." My aunt twisted, her face contorted with both fear and fury. "She's not Emily, Daddy. She's Sarah, your granddaughter. Look at her." But he didn't look at me. He looked through me like I wasn't even there, like I had been replaced by a ghost only he could see. His grip tightened, and for a moment I thought he would strike her. My aunt shoved me behind her, shielding me with her own body. "Let go of me," she growled, her voice shaking but strong. "No," he thundered, dragging us both back into the living room. "You'll ruin everything. She came back to me. God gave her back to me, and you won't take her away." My knees buckled as I stumbled behind my aunt. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear. I wanted to disappear, to vanish, but my feet were glued to the floor. Finally, with a sudden burst of strength, my aunt wrenched herself free from his grip. She shoved him backward with both hands, sending him staggering into the coffee table. The lamp toppled and crashed, glass shattering across the floor. "Stay away from us," she shouted, her chest heaving. She grabbed my hand and yanked me toward the door again. But my grandfather wasn't done. He rose slowly, his face red, veins bulging in his neck. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper that made my skin crawl. "If you leave this house with her, Anna, I'll come for both of you. And when I do, no one will be able to stop me." My aunt didn't answer. She just pulled me out the door, slamming it behind us. The night air hit my face, cold and sharp, but I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, my tears spilling freely as I clung to her. She half carried me to her car, shoved the keys into the ignition, and sped away down the dark country road. For the first time in months, I felt distance between me and him. But even with miles of road behind us, his voice echoed in my head. She's mine. She's mine. She's mine. When we reached her house, she locked every door and pulled the curtains shut. She sat me on the couch, wrapping a blanket around me, her own hands trembling. Sarah, she whispered, kneeling in front of me. Listen to me. You are not Emily. Do you hear me? You are Sarah. You're my niece, not his wife. Don't let him take that from you. Her words cracked something open inside me, and I sobbed into her arms until I had no tears left. That night, I thought maybe, just maybe, I was safe. But safety is a fragile thing. Because the next morning, my mother showed up at my aunt's house. Her face was tight with anger, her voice sharp as a knife. Anna, she snapped. How dare you run off with Sarah in the middle of the night? Dad called me in tears. You terrified him. He said you're trying to turn his granddaughter against him. My aunt stood tall, her arms crossed. He's dangerous and you know it. He thinks Sarah is Emily. He's losing his mind and you're letting it happen. My mother's eyes flashed with fury. He is grieving. And you're feeding Sarah lies, filling her head with nonsense. Don't you dare try to poison her against him. I stood between them, silent, my hands shaking, my throat locked tight. My mother turned to me, her voice softer but no less sharp. Sarah, tell me the truth. Grandpa loves you, doesn't he? He wouldn't hurt you, right? My chest burned. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My eyes darted to my aunt, pleading for her to speak for me. But my silence was enough. My mother's face hardened. That's what I thought. You're coming home with me. My aunt grabbed my arm protectively. No, she's not. I won't let you put her back in that house. Their voices rose, each word like thunder crashing around me. And in the middle of it all, I felt smaller than I ever had. Powerless. Trapped. But then, before either of them could say more, there was a loud knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. My aunt froze. My mother turned her head. My stomach dropped, because deep down I already knew who it was. The knock rattled through the house like a warning. 3 sharp raps, slow and deliberate. My aunt stiffened, her eyes flicking toward the door. My mother, on the other hand, sighed loudly, muttering under her breath. That'll be Dad. He probably came to clear this nonsense up. My heart sank. My chest felt like it was caving in. No, not here. Not now. Before my aunt could stop her, my mother marched over and unlocked the door. The hinges creaked as it swung open, and there he was, my grandfather. He stood on the porch in his pressed shirt and old hat, his back straight like a soldier. But his eyes were wild, gleaming with the same obsession I'd seen the night before. He smiled when he saw me. That smile made my stomach twist. There's my Emily, he said softly, stepping across the threshold. I stumbled backward until my legs hit the couch. My aunt immediately moved in front of me, her body tense, her hands balled into fists. Daddy, you need to leave, she snapped. You're not welcome here. My mother's voice rose in protest. Anna, stop. He's her grandfather. He has every right. No, my aunt shouted, her voice shaking. Not if he's going to keep doing this. Look at him. He doesn't even see Sarah anymore. He only sees Emily. Grandpa's smile faltered, his face darkening as he turned to my aunt. His voice was low, almost a growl. Move aside, Anna. You won't keep her from me. Not again. My aunt's hands trembled, but she didn't move. If you take one more step, I'll call the police. The word hung in the air like a threat, heavy and dangerous. My grandfather's jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing into slits. For a moment, I thought he might strike her right there in the doorway. My mother gasped, frozen between loyalty to her father and the fear beginning to creep into her face. Finally, Grandpa spoke, his tone chillingly calm. You think the police will believe you? You think they'll listen? No. They'll laugh at you. They'll say I'm just an old man who lost his wife. They'll pat me on the back and tell me to go home. And you know why? He stepped closer, his gaze cutting through both of them and landing on me. Because Emily belongs with me. She always has. I shook my head violently, sobbing. I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah. I'm Sarah. My voice cracked as I screamed it, desperate for someone, anyone, to believe me. The room fell silent. My mother turned slowly toward me, her face pale. For the first time, she seemed to really look at me, to see the terror in my eyes, the trembling in my hands, the way I clung to my aunt like my life depended on it. "Sarah," she whispered. But my grandfather only laughed, low and broken. That's what she always used to say when she was mad at me. "I'm not Emily," she'd shout. But she always came back. She always remembered who she was. "And so will you." He lunged forward suddenly, his hand outstretched toward me. My aunt shoved him back, her voice fierce. "Don't touch her." The force of her push sent him stumbling into the table. A vase toppled and shattered across the floor. He roared in anger, his face red, his body shaking. "You'll regret this, Anna. Both of you will." He stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother sank into a chair, her face buried in her hands. My aunt dropped to her knees beside me, holding me tight. My whole body trembled as I buried my face against her shoulder. For the first time, I saw something crack in my mother's eyes. A shadow of doubt, a flicker of guilt. She had seen it too. But deep down I knew it wasn't over. He wouldn't stop. Not until he had what he wanted. That night, as I tried to sleep in my aunt's house, I couldn't stop hearing his voice echoing in my head. "You'll regret this. You'll regret this." And the next morning, regret came knocking. Because when my aunt stepped outside to get the mail, there was something waiting on the porch. A dead bird. Its wings spread wide, its body stiff. And beside it, in my grandfather's handwriting, a note. "Emily belongs to me. If you keep her, you'll end up just like this." The bird lay there with its wings frozen mid-flight, like it had been dropped from the sky and never allowed to rise again. My aunt gasped when she saw it, her hand flying to her mouth. The note beside it fluttered in the morning breeze, the words scrawled in my grandfather's shaky handwriting. "Emily belongs to me. If you keep her, you'll end up just like this." I stood in the doorway, my heart hammering so loud I could hear it in my ears. My legs turned weak, my vision blurry. My aunt quickly snatched up the note and crumpled it in her fist, trying to shield me from it, but it was too late. I had already read it. I knew then that my grandfather wasn't just confused. He wasn't just sick. He was dangerous. My aunt stormed back inside, tossing the crumpled paper onto the table. "That's it," she said through clenched teeth. "I'm calling the police. This has gone too far." I sat on the couch, wrapping my arms around myself. My mother was in the kitchen, pouring coffee like nothing had happened, her expression tight and unreadable. "Anna," she said sharply, "don't overreact. He probably just wanted to scare you. You know Dad wouldn't actually hurt anyone." My aunt spun on her, her eyes blazing. "Scare us? He killed a bird and left it on my porch with a threat. For God's sake. What's next?" "Sarah." "Me? You still think this is grief?" My mother's hand trembled as she set her cup down, but her voice stayed firm. "He's my father. I won't let you turn him into a monster." The silence that followed was unbearable. My aunt picked up the phone anyway, her fingers dialing with determination. She explained everything to the police, the obsession, the threats, the bird. I watched her, clinging to the hope that someone finally would believe us, that someone would step in and stop him. But when the officers arrived an hour later, it was nothing like I imagined. They stood in our living room, nodding politely, scribbling notes. Then one of them, a tall man with kind eyes, looked at me and asked gently, "Sweetheart, has your grandpa ever hurt you?" I froze. My mouth went dry. My aunt looked at me, silently begging me to speak. My mother's eyes bored into me, daring me to answer the wrong way. I wanted to scream the truth. I wanted to tell them about the nights, the touches, the way he whispered Emily's name in my ear. But the words caught in my throat. My voice betrayed me. "No, he whispered." "He hasn't." The officer nodded, satisfied. My aunt shook her head in disbelief, tears brimming in her eyes. "She's scared," she insisted. "Can't you see? He has her so scared she can't even talk." But the police only gave her a sympathetic look. "Without proof, there's not much we can do. We'll have a word with him, make sure he understands this kind of behavior isn't acceptable. But legally, our hands are tied." And just like that, they left. The moment the door closed, my aunt broke down, pacing the room, muttering under her breath. "They don't get it. They don't see it. He's going to hurt her, and no one's going to stop him. My mother said nothing. She just stared out the window, her face pale. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Every shadow on the wall looked like him. I lay awake, clutching the blanket, praying that he wouldn't come for me again. And then in the dead of night I heard it. The crunch of footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I crept to the window, my breath caught in my chest. And there he was, my grandfather, standing at the edge of the yard, staring up at my window. His face was hidden in shadow, but I knew it was him. I ducked down quickly, my heart racing. I wanted to scream for my aunt, but I was frozen. When I finally dared to peek again, he was gone. The next morning I tried to tell my aunt, but before I could, she called us into the living room. On the coffee table lay another note, slipped under the door sometime during the night. This one was shorter. If you don't return her to me, I'll take her back myself. The words burned into my mind like fire. And then my aunt looked at me, her voice shaking. Sarah, we can't stay here anymore. He won't stop. We need to leave before it's too late. My stomach dropped. Leave? Where would we go? How far would we have to run? But before I could answer, the phone rang. My aunt picked it up, listened for a few seconds, and her face went white. She dropped the receiver, her hand shaking as she whispered, "He knows where we're going." The phone still swung from its cord, clicking faintly with each sway. My aunt's face was pale, her lips trembling as she stared at the receiver. I could hear the faint echo of his voice still lingering in the air. His words repeating in my mind like a curse. "I know where you're going." My blood ran cold. How? How could he know? We hadn't even decided yet where we were going. It was like he was inside the house, watching, listening, waiting. My aunt quickly slammed the phone back onto the cradle, her breath ragged. "We need to leave now. Pack a bag, Sarah. Just the basics. We can't wait." My mother stood frozen, arms crossed tightly over her chest, shaking her head. "No. I won't run. This is my father, Anna. You don't understand, he's sick, but he's not evil. If you keep pushing him away, you'll only make him worse." "Worse?" my aunt snapped. "How much worse do you need it to get, Mary? He's leaving dead animals, sneaking around at night, making threats. He's obsessed with your daughter. And you're just standing there, defending him." The two of them glared at each other, their words like knives. I sat in the middle, shrinking smaller and smaller, as if my body could disappear into the couch cushions. Finally, my aunt turned to me, her eyes softening. "Sarah, do you want to stay here waiting for him to come back? Or do you want to be safe?" Safe. That word hit me hard. I wanted it more than anything. But deep inside I knew safety didn't exist, not while he was still out there. I want to leave," I whispered. My aunt nodded firmly. "Then that's what we'll do." She dragged out a duffel bag and started throwing in clothes, toiletries, anything she thought we'd need. I followed, folding what I could with trembling hands. My mother stood in the doorway, torn between us and the invisible string pulling her back to him. By the time the sun dipped low, painting the sky red, the bag was packed. My aunt grabbed her car keys. "We'll go to a hotel first, then figure out the rest. Somewhere he won't expect." We hurried out to the car, my aunt shoving the bag into the back seat. She started the engine, the headlights slicing through the dark. My mother hesitated, then finally slid into the passenger seat with a frustrated sigh. As we pulled away from the house, my heart beat a little easier. The streets stretched ahead, winding through neighborhoods and then into empty stretches of highway. I leaned against the window, trying to believe we were leaving him behind. But that hope shattered 20 minutes later. Up ahead, parked on the side of the road beneath a flickering street lamp, was his truck. Old, rusted, unmistakable. My grandfather's silhouette sat in the driver's seat, motionless, watching. My aunt slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. My chest hit the seatbelt, knocking the wind out of me. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." As if on cue, the truck engine roared to life. Headlights blazed, blinding us in the rearview mirror as he pulled onto the road behind us. "He's following us," I cried. "Hold on," my aunt shouted, gripping the wheel tight. She floored the gas and the car shot forward, tires squealing. The chase began. The road twisted through the countryside, shadows swallowing the edges of the pavement. My aunt swerved, trying to lose him, but the truck stayed close, its headlights burning into us like eyes that wouldn't blink. Every turn we made he matched. Every stretch of road, he closed the gap. My mother clutched the dashboard, her face pale, tears spilling down her cheeks. For once she didn't defend him. She didn't call it grief. She didn't call it love. She just whispered over and over, "Please God, don't let him catch us." I pressed my face against the window, the world outside a blur of trees and asphalt. My heart felt like it was tearing itself apart. Was this it? Was this the moment he finally took me? Then suddenly blue and red lights flashed in the distance. A police car. My aunt honked the horn wildly, swerving toward it. "Help us," she screamed, even though no one could hear her through the glass. The officer inside must have seen the chaos, because the sirens lit up, and the patrol car pulled onto the road, blocking my grandfather's path. He swerved violently, tires screeching, his truck spinning off into a ditch. The sound of metal grinding against earth filled the air before everything went still. We pulled over, hearts pounding, lungs gasping for air. The officer ran toward us shouting, "Is everyone okay?" But I couldn't answer. My eyes were locked on the ditch, on the truck lying there in the shadows. Because I knew, even if they arrested him, even if they locked him away, he wouldn't stop. Not until he had me. The flashing red and blue lights painted the night sky like fire. My aunt's car door creaked open, and the officer leaned in, his flashlight bright against our pale faces. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered gently. "You're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. My eyes stayed glued to the ditch. My grandfather's truck sat tilted, its wheels still spinning weakly in the dirt. Then the driver's door groaned and he climbed out, slowly, carefully, like nothing had happened. His shirt was half unbuttoned, his gray hair wild from the chase, but his face carried the same chilling calmness I had seen so many nights before. He raised his hands in the air, almost mockingly, and said, "There's been a mistake. I was just following my family home." My stomach twisted. His words sounded almost normal, almost believable. The officer squared his shoulders. "Sir, I need you to stay right there." But my grandfather kept talking, his eyes never leaving mine. "Sarah, Emily, you know it's me, don't you? You know where you belong." I shrank behind my aunt, my body shaking. My aunt stepped forward like a shield, shouting back, "Stay away from her. She is not your wife. She's a child, for God's sake." The officer quickly cuffed him, though my grandfather didn't resist. He only smiled faintly, as if he already knew this wasn't the end. They put him in the back of the patrol car. His face pressed against the glass, his eyes locked with mine until the car pulled away into the dark. For the first time in months, the night was quiet. My aunt wrapped her arm around me, whispering, "It's over. It's finally over." But I wasn't convinced. We spent that night in a hotel, curtains drawn tight, the television on just to fill the silence. My aunt called the police station repeatedly, demanding to know what charges he would face. Finally, around dawn, they gave us an answer that shattered me. Without evidence of physical harm, the officer explained over the phone, the most we can hold him for is reckless driving and harassment. He'll likely be released soon. Released. The word echoed in my chest like a hammer blow. When my aunt hung up, she buried her face in her hands. This system is broken. They're just letting him come back. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the carpet, trying to process what it meant. He would walk free. He would come for me again. 2 days later, my fears became real. We were eating breakfast in the hotel lobby when my mother's phone buzzed. She glanced down, her face going pale. "What is it?" my aunt asked, tension already thick in her voice. My mother turned the screen toward us. It was a text message. From him. "You can hide her in hotels, in strangers' houses, in the ends of the earth, but she will come back to me. She always does." The phone slipped from her hand, clattering against the table. My aunt grabbed it, her jaw tightening. "That's it," she said firmly. "We're not running anymore. If the police won't stop him, then I will." Her voice was fierce, but her eyes trembled. And in that moment I realized something. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a war between my aunt and my grandfather, a war with me trapped in the middle. That night, as I tried to sleep, I heard my aunt on the phone again, her voice low and urgent. I couldn't make out every word, but I caught fragments. Restraining order, witness protection. Anything to keep her safe. Then silence. But just as I was drifting off, the silence shattered. A sharp thunk hit the window. Then another. Then another. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and pulled the curtain back just an inch. On the ground outside, lined neatly in a row, were rocks. Each one had a word painted on it in black marker. Emily. Forever. Mine. And standing in the shadows at the edge of the parking lot was my grandfather. The sight froze me where I stood. His figure was barely lit by the yellow glow of the hotel parking lot lamp, but I knew it was him. The way he stood, too still, too patient, was burned into my memory. The rocks on the ground glimmered faintly with paint, each one spelling his madness. Each one meant for me. Emily. Forever. Mine. I couldn't breathe. My fingers dug into the curtain until the fabric nearly tore. He didn't move. He just stared, as if waiting for me to come to him, as if daring me to open the window. My whisper cracked in the darkness. Aunt Anna. She was already awake. Her bed creaked as she hurried over, yanking the curtain wider. Her face twisted in fury when she saw him. She didn't even hesitate. She grabbed her phone and started dialing the police again. But the moment she lifted the phone, he stepped back into the shadows. His figure melted into the dark, gone as quickly as he had appeared. By the time the police arrived, all that was left were the rocks. They took pictures, bagged them, and promised to look into it. But I could see it in their eyes. There was no urgency, no belief that these painted stones were anything more than a prank. When they left, my aunt slammed the door behind them and locked every bolt twice. She crouched down in front of me, holding my face in her hands. Sarah, listen to me. I don't care if they take this seriously or not. I will protect you with my life. He is never going to touch you again. Do you hear me? I nodded, though my body trembled too much to believe it. The next few days blurred together. My aunt refused to leave the hotel except to buy food. She covered the windows with towels, unplugged the hotel phone, and even made me sleep between her and my mother at night. She was fighting a battle, but she was running out of strength. My mother, on the other hand, seemed to sink deeper into denial. She barely spoke, only staring at her phone, waiting for his messages, whispering things like, maybe he just needs me to talk to him. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to beg her to see the truth. But the words stayed trapped in my throat, because deep down I knew she didn't want to see it. Then came the breaking point. On the fourth night, a knock rattled our hotel door. My aunt froze, motioning for me to stay quiet. Slowly, she crept to the peephole. Her body stiffened. It's him, she mouthed. My stomach dropped. He knocked again, harder this time. Emily. His voice seeped through the crack in the door, low and calm. Open up. I just want to talk. My aunt grabbed a chair and wedged it under the handle. She motioned for me to back away, but I couldn't move. My legs felt glued to the carpet. Then his voice shifted, sharp and angry. Emily, don't you hide from me. You're mine. You always have been. The door shook violently as he slammed against it. The chair groaned under the force, the metal legs scraping across the floor. My aunt grabbed me, pulling me behind the bed, whispering, "Stay down. Don't make a sound." But my mother was already moving. Her hand reached for the lock. "No," my aunt hissed, tackling her back. The two of them struggled, one trying to open the door, the other trying to keep it shut. I watched in horror, unable to understand how my own mother could betray me like this. Then with a sickening crack, the doorframe splintered. His arm shoved through the gap, reaching, grasping wildly at the air. His fingers clawed for the lock. I bit down on my scream, tears streaming down my face. This was it. He was inside. The nightmare I had feared for months was no longer a shadow. It was real. The doorframe cracked wider, the wood splitting like dry bones. His arm shot through, fingers curling, nails scratching at the lock. "Emily," he snarled, his voice raw now, stripped of the calm disguise. "Open this door before I tear it down." I pressed my back against the wall, hugging my knees. shaking so badly I thought my bones might rattle. My aunt fought with everything in her, her body leaning against the chair to hold the door closed. My mother, tears streaming down her face, kept screaming. He loves her. He just wants to see her. Let him in, Anna, let him in. Are you insane? My aunt roared back, shoving her to the floor. He's going to destroy her. The banging grew louder, more violent. The metal latch screeched as his hand twisted and pulled. It felt like the whole room was about to collapse. And then sirens. The shrill wail cut through the chaos, drawing closer, louder. My grandfather froze. His hands stilled on the lock, his breathing heavy. Then with a frustrated growl, he yanked his arm back. By the time the red and blue lights flashed across the window, the hallway was empty. He was gone. The police stormed in seconds later, guns drawn, shouting commands. My aunt was still bracing the door, her chest heaving, sweat running down her face. My mother sat crumpled on the floor, rocking back and forth, mumbling to herself. And me, I was frozen in the corner, my voice lost, my body numb. The officers searched the parking lot but found nothing.
No truck, no man.
He had vanished into the night once again, like a shadow that refused to be caught. But this time the evidence was undeniable. The shattered doorframe, the broken latch, the bruises already forming on my aunt's arms. There was no way they could dismiss it as a family misunderstanding. We'll put a protective order in place immediately, one of the officers said, his tone grim. But you need to understand. If he's this determined, no piece of paper is going to stop him. Those words echoed in my head long after they left. No piece of paper. The hotel forced us to leave the next morning. Too much liability, the manager muttered, avoiding our eyes. So we packed our things again, moving like fugitives, jumping from one hiding place to another. But it didn't matter where we went. He always found us. At a diner 3 towns over. A napkin slid across our booth when the waitress set down our food. On it, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "I'll never stop." At a gas station, tucked under the windshield wiper of my aunt's car, was a Polaroid photo me, taken from a distance just hours earlier. Each time we thought we had escaped, his shadow returned, darker, closer. I began to wonder if escape was even possible. One night, as we sat in yet another motel room, my aunt pacing while my mother sat silent, I whispered the thought out loud. What if he never stops? What if he kills us? My aunt froze mid-step. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw something break in her. Not fear. Not anger. But hopelessness. Then, almost as quickly, it was gone. She dropped to her knees in front of me, gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. Listen to me, Sarah, she said, her voice fierce but trembling. He will not win. He has already stolen too much from you. I swear on my life I will end this. Even if it kills me. I believed her. But the way she said it sent a shiver through me, because it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a plan. That night, I woke to find her gone. Her bed was empty. Her phone, her purse, even her car keys gone. I stumbled to the window, my heart racing. And there in the parking lot I saw her car headlights flicker on. She was pulling away into the night, leaving us behind. I didn't know where she was going, but I had a terrifying feeling she was going straight to him. I stood frozen at the window, my breath fogging the glass as my aunt's car disappeared into the black stretch of highway. She hadn't told me. She hadn't told anyone. My mother lay on the other bed, her eyes closed, pretending to sleep. Or maybe she really was asleep, lost in the same trance she'd been in for weeks. Either way, she didn't stir when I whispered her name. She didn't move when I shook her shoulder. She didn't care. It was just me. And the sickening thought that my aunt was driving straight into the lion's den. I scrambled for the phone, my hands trembling as I dialed her number. Straight to voicemail. Again. Again. No answer. The pit in my stomach grew heavier, darker. I couldn't just sit here. For a moment, the thought of running after her filled my head, stealing the spare keys, chasing her down. But I was a child. I had no idea where she'd gone. All I knew was that she had carried the kind of resolve in her eyes that only meant one thing. She was ready to face him. Hours crawled by like years. Every car that passed the motel made me flinch. Every siren in the distance sent ice through my veins. I prayed she would walk back in, angry but safe, telling me she had just gone to warn him off or file some secret report. But she didn't come back that night. When morning light slipped between the curtains, my aunt's bed was still empty. My mother finally stirred, her face pale and distant. "Where's Anna?" she asked, as if she hadn't noticed her absence all night. "She left," I whispered. She didn't say where. Something flickered in my mother's eyes. Guilt, fear, or maybe it was recognition. Because deep down, she must have known where Anna had gone. The phone rang just after noon. I nearly tripped over myself trying to answer it. Sarah. It was her. My aunt's voice. Ragged, hoarse, but alive. "Aunt Anna. Where are you? Are you okay?" There was a long silence and then she said, "I found him." My blood went cold. "I found him," she repeated, her voice trembling with something I couldn't name. "But it's worse than I thought. He isn't just obsessed with you, Sarah. He's sick in ways I can't even explain. His whole house, it's like a shrine. Pictures of you. Of your grandmother. Clothes, letters, candles. He's built a world where time never moved on. Where Emily never died and you." Her voice cracked. "You're the replacement." I could hear her trying not to sob, trying to hold herself together. "I'm calling the police again," she said quickly. "I'm not running this time. I've got proof. They can't ignore it now. Stay inside, keep the door locked, and no matter what happens, don't open it. Do you hear me?" "Yes," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. But even as I clung to her words, I heard it. In the background, a creak of floorboards. A low guttural voice. "Anna, is that you?" My heart stopped. It was him. The line went dead. I screamed into the silence, begging her to pick up, redialing over and over, but it was useless. He had found her. Or maybe she had found him. Either way, she was trapped. My mother finally snapped out of her daze, rushing over, grabbing the phone from my hands. "What did you do?" she cried. "Why did you let her go?" "She went to stop him." I screamed back, my voice breaking. But deep down I knew. She hadn't gone to stop him. She had gone to end him. And now she might never come back.